If the person you love does any of these 11 things, the relationship is one-sided. You are not in a relationship. You are in an effort. And the reason this is hard to admit is because it doesn't feel empty. It feels inconsistent. There are moments where everything seems right. Attention, connection, even affection. Just enough to make you believe it's real. Just enough to make you stay. But then it shifts. You start noticing that you are the one reaching out more. The one trying to keep things alive. The one thinking, adjusting, waiting. And instead of questioning the dynamic, you question yourself. Am I asking for too much? Am I overthinking? Am I being unfair? And that is where the imbalance hides. Because when something is mutual, you don't feel like you have to maintain it. You don't feel like you are responsible for making it work. It flows. It meets you halfway. It exists without constant effort. But here, something feels different. You're not just part of the relationship, you are carrying it. And the hardest part is realizing that what you thought was love might actually be effort without return. One-sided relationships don't look empty. That's why they are so hard to leave. If it was nothing, you wouldn't stay. If there was no attention, no connection, no moments of closeness, it would be easy to walk away. But that is not what happens. There are glimpses, small moments where everything feels right again. A message, a gesture, a conversation that brings you back to what you thought this was. And those moments become enough. Not because they truly fulfill you, but because they interrupt the absence. They give you something to hold on to, something to justify staying. You tell yourself that this is proof that it exists, that it can work, that it just needs time. But look closer. It is not consistent. It is not stable. It is not something you can rely on. It appears, disappears, and leaves you trying to understand why. And that is where the illusion lives, because you are not attached to what the relationship is most of the time. You are attached to those moments where it feels real. And everything in between becomes something you tolerate just to get back to that feeling. So it doesn't feel empty. It feels unpredictable. And unpredictability is one of the strongest forms of emotional attachment. At some point, you stop asking what is missing, and you start compensating for it. You tell yourself that every relationship has phases, that people express love differently, that maybe this is just how things are right now. And without realizing it, you begin to fill the gaps. You initiate more. You explain more. You give more. You become more patient, more understanding, more available. Not because you want to overgive, but because you are trying to keep the connection from slipping away. And that is where everything shifts. The problem is no longer what is lacking. The problem is that you are the one covering for it. You are the one making sure communication happens. The one keeping the emotional tone stable. The one avoiding tension so things don't fall apart. And slowly, the relationship starts to depend on your effort to exist. That is not balance. That is maintenance. And the more you compensate, the less the other person needs to step in. Because whether they show up or not, the relationship continues. Because you are carrying it. So ask yourself something simple. If you stopped doing everything you do to keep this going, what would actually be left? It begins in a way that feels small, almost unimportant. You are the one who starts most conversations. You send the message first, you check in, you keep things moving. At first, it doesn't feel like a problem. You tell yourself that you are just more communicative, more expressive, more present. But over time, something starts to feel off. You notice that if you don't reach out, nothing really happens. There is no effort coming from the other side to keep the connection alive. And instead of stepping back to observe that, you lean in even more. You send another message. You try a different approach. You give it one more chance, because silence feels uncomfortable. And that is where the imbalance hides. Because when someone truly wants to be in your life, communication is not something you have to create alone. It happens naturally from both sides. There is initiative, there is presence, there is effort that does not depend on you starting it. But here, it depends on you. And the moment you stop, everything slows down or stops completely. That is not coincidence. That is a sign. Then, without realizing it, you start adjusting yourself to keep things working. You change the way you communicate. You become more careful with your words, more flexible with your expectations, more understanding than you naturally would be. You tell yourself that relationships require compromise, that it is normal to adapt. But this is not adaptation. This is imbalance, because you are not adjusting together. You are adjusting alone. You begin to accept less attention, less effort, less clarity. You lower your expectations, not because your needs changed, but because you are trying to fit into what the other person is willing to give. And slowly, something important starts to fade. Your natural way of being. You think twice before expressing how you feel. You hold back opinions. You avoid bringing up things that might create tension. Not because you don't have something to say, but because you don't want to risk losing what little stability exists. And that is where you start losing yourself. Not in a dramatic way, but in small, quiet adjustments that accumulate over time. Because in a balanced relationship, you don't need to shrink to make it work. You expand, together. Then comes something even more subtle. You start avoiding conflict, not because everything is fine, but because you are afraid of what might happen if you bring things up. You feel things that bother you, moments that don't sit right, situations where you wish you could say something, express something, clarify something. But instead of speaking, you hold it in. You tell yourself it's not worth it, that it might create distance, that it could push the other person away. So you stay quiet. And that silence becomes part of the relationship, because instead of resolving things, you start managing them internally. You carry the discomfort, you process it alone, you convince yourself it will pass. But it doesn't pass. It accumulates. And over time, you become more focused on maintaining peace than being honest. You prioritize keeping the connection stable over expressing what you actually feel. That is not emotional safety. That is emotional suppression. Because in a healthy relationship, you don't feel like honesty is a risk. You don't feel like expressing yourself could cost you the connection. But here, it feels like it might. And that changes everything. And then something even more confusing starts to happen. You feel insecure, but you can't fully explain why. Nothing is clearly wrong. There is no obvious betrayal, no clear rejection, no moment you can point to and say, this is the problem. But inside, something doesn't feel stable. You start overthinking small things, the way they reply, the time they take, the tone of a message. You look for meaning in details that never used to matter. And instead of questioning the dynamic, you question yourself. Why am I feeling like this? Am I overreacting? Am I becoming needy? But here is what you need to understand. Insecurity doesn't come out of nowhere. It is often a response to inconsistency. When someone is emotionally present one moment and distant the next, your mind tries to make sense of it. It searches for patterns, for explanations, for control. And that creates anxiety, because you're trying to stabilize something that isn't stable. So what you feel is not weakness. It is your perception reacting to a lack of emotional consistency. And if you ignore that, it doesn't go away. It intensifies. And then you start celebrating things that should be normal. A message becomes something special. A moment of attention feels like progress. Basic effort starts to feel like proof that the relationship is working. And without realizing it, your standards begin to shift. Not because your needs changed, but because you are trying to make sense of what little you receive. You hold on to small gestures as if they mean more than they actually do. You replay conversations, you remember the moments where they showed up, and you use them as evidence that it exists, that it matters, that it is real. But look at what is happening. You are not receiving enough. So you're amplifying what you do receive, and that creates a false sense of balance. Because in a healthy connection, consistency makes you feel secure. You don't need to analyze every small effort. You don't need to hold on to moments to prove something to yourself. But here, those moments become everything. Not because they are enough, but because they are rare. And when something basic starts to feel exceptional, that is not love growing. That is you adapting to less than you deserve. And even when you are with them, something still feels missing. You are not alone, but you feel alone. The conversations happen, the time is spent together, but there is a distance you can't explain. It's not physical, it's emotional. You don't feel fully met, fully seen, fully understood, and instead of recognizing that gap, you try to close it. You give more attention, more presence, more emotional energy, hoping that something will shift. Hoping that if you show up more, they will meet you there. But they don't. Or they do for a moment, just enough to keep you from questioning everything. And then it fades again, and you are left with the same feeling. Because emotional connection is not something one person can create alone. You can offer it, you can invite it, but you cannot build it by yourself. And that is the part that hurts the most. Not the absence of the person, but the absence of connection when the person is right there. That is when you start to realize it is not about time together. It is about how you feel within it. Then the pattern becomes clearer. Even if you try not to see it, their effort is not stable. There are moments where they show up, where they give attention, where it feels like things are finally aligning. And just when you start to relax, it changes again. The energy drops, the presence fades, the connection becomes distant, and you are back where you started, trying to understand what shifted, but nothing actually shifted. This is the pattern. And inconsistency is not neutral. It creates dependency, because every time they come back with effort, it resets your hope. It makes you believe that this time it will be different, that this version is the real one, and that keeps you emotionally invested. But consistency is what defines intention, not occasional effort. Anyone can show up sometimes. Anyone can be present in moments. But real interest is measured in stability and continuity, in behavior that doesn't disappear when it's no longer convenient. So what you are experiencing is not confusion. It is a cycle. And cycles don't change unless something breaks them. And to keep that cycle alive, you start doing something that feels reasonable, but slowly traps you. You justify their behavior. You explain the inconsistency. You give context, reasons, possibilities. Maybe they are busy. Maybe they are going through something. Maybe they just don't express themselves the same way. And each explanation makes it easier to stay. Because instead of seeing what is happening, you start softening it. You remove the weight of their actions and replace it with understanding. But there is a difference between understanding someone and excusing a pattern. Understanding looks at behavior and acknowledges it clearly. Excusing changes the meaning of that behavior so it becomes acceptable. And the more you do that, the more you disconnect from reality. Because instead of asking if this is enough for you, you focus on why they are like this. You shift the attention away from your needs and place it on their situation. And slowly, your standards become flexible. Not because they should be, but because you're trying to make the relationship make sense. At some point, you start feeling like you're asking for too much. You hesitate before expressing a need. You rethink whether something is worth bringing up. You start filtering what you feel based on how it might be received. And the question begins to follow you. Am I expecting too much? But look at what you're actually asking for. Consistency, attention, effort, presence, clarity. These are not excessive needs. These are basic elements of a healthy relationship. So if asking for them feels like pressure, something is already off. Because in the right dynamic, you don't feel like your needs are a burden. You don't feel like you are demanding too much by wanting something stable and reciprocal. But here you do, and that changes how you behave. You ask less, you accept more. You settle for what is given instead of standing for what you need. Not because you don't know your value, but because you are trying to make the relationship fit. And that is the moment where you stop evaluating the situation honestly. Because instead of asking if this is enough for you, you start asking if you are too much for it. And even when you are tired, you don't leave. You feel the weight of it. The mental effort, the emotional back and forth, the constant need to think, adjust, wait. It drains you. You notice it, you feel it, but you stay. Not because it feels right, but because you are already invested. Time, emotion, expectations, everything you built around what this could be. Walking away feels like losing all of that at once. So you keep going. You tell yourself that maybe it will change. That maybe you just need to give it a little more time. That leaving now might be a mistake. And that keeps you in place, because what you are holding on to is not what the relationship is giving you now. It is what you hoped it would become, and hope can be powerful. But it can also keep you attached to something that is no longer moving forward. So instead of leaving when you feel exhausted, you push through it. You normalize the effort. You accept the imbalance. You stay longer than your energy allows. And that is how you slowly disconnect from yourself. Not in one moment, but in many small decisions to stay when everything in you was already tired. And at some point, you start to feel something you don't want to admit. You love more. Not just a little more, noticeably more. You care more, you think more, you invest more. You are more emotionally present, more involved, more affected by everything that happens between you. And that difference creates an imbalance you can feel, even if no one says it out loud. Because love, when it is mutual, feels shared. But here it feels weighted. You are the one holding the emotional depth of the relationship. You are the one trying to keep it meaningful, to keep it alive, to keep it moving. And the other person participates but doesn't carry the same weight. And that creates a quiet truth. You are not experiencing the same relationship. You are both in it, but not in the same way. And that is why it feels so confusing. Because it exists, but not equally. And the moment you recognize that, something becomes clear. It is not that love is missing. It is that it is not being given at the same level. And that changes everything. Now, everything connects. You initiating more, you adjusting more, you staying quiet to avoid conflict, the insecurity that appeared without a clear reason, the way you started celebrating small things, the loneliness you felt even when you were together, the inconsistency, the justifications, the feeling that you were asking for too much, the exhaustion, the realization that you love more. None of this is isolated. It is a pattern. And a one-sided relationship only works for one reason, because one person is doing most of the work. You are the one creating movement, maintaining connection, stabilizing emotions, keeping the relationship from falling apart. And because you are doing all of that, it gives the illusion that it still exists. But if you step back, if you stop compensating, if you stop holding everything together, what happens? That is the question most people avoid, because the answer reveals the truth. This is not about whether the relationship exists. It is about who is sustaining it. And once you see that clearly, you cannot unsee it. So now the question is no longer what this relationship is. The question is what you are going to do with what you see. Because once you recognize the pattern, staying the same is no longer neutral. It becomes a choice. a choice to continue carrying something that is not being shared, a choice to keep investing in something that is not meeting you at the same level, a choice to stay in a dynamic that slowly drains you. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because you might still feel attached. You might still care. You might still hope that something changes. But clarity does not remove emotion. It just removes the illusion. And now you are not confused anymore. You are aware. So whatever you decide from this point, it has to be honest. Not based on what you wish this could be, but based on what it actually is. Because staying without awareness keeps you stuck. But staying with awareness means you are accepting everything that comes with it. And this is where most people hesitate. Not because they don't see it, but because acting on it changes everything. Because once you admit that you are the one carrying the relationship, you can't go back to pretending it's balanced. You can't ignore what you feel anymore. And that means you have to face a decision. Continue like this, or step away from something that is not meeting you. And that is not easy, because walking away doesn't just mean losing the person. It means letting go of the time, the effort, the emotional investment, the idea of what this could have been. So your mind tries to negotiate. Maybe it will change. Maybe I just need to communicate better. Maybe I'm expecting too much. But deep down, you already know. If it needed this much effort just to feel stable, it was never stable. And staying will not fix that. It will only extend it. So the real question is not whether you can keep going. The real question is whether you should. So now it comes down to something very simple. Do you want a relationship? Or do you want to feel chosen? Because these are not the same thing. You can be in a relationship and still feel uncertain, still feel like you are trying to earn your place, still feel like you are the one holding everything together. Or you can be with someone who makes it clear through consistency and effort that you don't have to question where you stand. And once you experience that difference, everything changes. Because love is not supposed to feel like a constant effort to keep someone interested. It is not supposed to feel like you are the one proving, convincing, maintaining. Love meets you. It responds. It shows up without needing to be pulled. And if what you have right now requires you to constantly give more than you receive, to think more than you feel, to hold more than you should, then it is not mutual. And you already feel that. And here is the part that changes everything. You don't lose a relationship by asking for balance. You only reveal what was never balanced to begin with. Because if expressing your needs, asking for consistency, or expecting mutual effort makes the relationship unstable, then the instability was already there. You are just holding it together. And this is where your power comes back, not in trying harder, not in giving more, but in stepping back and allowing the relationship to show you what it actually is without your constant effort. Because when you stop compensating, one of two things happens. Either the other person steps in and meets you, or everything falls apart, and both outcomes give you clarity. So this is not about forcing a result. It is about allowing the truth to surface, without interference, without overgiving, without trying to fix what isn't being built by both sides. Because real connection does not collapse when you stop carrying it. Only one-sided relationships do.